Imagine a religion corrupted by its own scholars. For more than a century, Islam was simple, inclusive, and centered on the Quran. Then, influenced by political and financial pressures, scholars rewrote history, recast outcasts as icons, and built a strict orthodoxy into a version of Islam that barely resembles the faith the Prophet left us. Let's find out how. In the beginning, to be a Muslim, all you needed was a few core beliefs. Belief in Allah, in revelation, in the messengers, and in the afterlife. That was it. Islam was open, flexible, centered on the Quran. But within a century, everything changed. The most prominent scholars, those whose opinions shaped the course of Islam, depended heavily on grants, donations, and patronage from rulers and wealthy benefactors. To show that their patrons' money was well spent, they began raising debates, formalizing doctrines, and creating new concepts, sometimes on issues that hadn't existed before. Ideas like ijma and sharia emerged, gradually creating a long checklist of required beliefs and practices. Fail to accept even one, and you could be declared outside the fold of Islam. A faith once defined by inclusion and ethics became rigid, exclusionary, and doctrinal. Even minor deviations could get you labeled a heretic. Unfortunately, a practice still common today. This transformation coincided, or you could say was, because of the rise of hadith-based jurisprudence. Early Islam relied on the Quran and reason. But as scholars consolidated authority, hadith, sayings, and actions of the Prophet were elevated to the same level or even above the Quran itself. What had once been optional became mandatory, and suddenly, strict orthodoxy was the standard. Not everyone agreed with this shift. Abu Hanifah, the founder of the Hanafi school, relied on the Quran and analogy more than hadith. Proto-Sunni scholars condemned him. They called him unreliable, weak in hadith, even a heretic. His followers were dismissed, and they even rejoiced on the news of his death. But here's the twist. The Hanafi school spread rapidly. Judges and communities loved its flexibility and similarity to early Islam. It became the most popular legal school. Scholars now faced a dilemma. How do you maintain the narrative of strict hadith orthodoxy when the most influential school is founded by someone they condemned? The answer? Historical revisionism. Abu Hanifah's image was reshaped. Hadith compilations were falsely attributed to him. His legal methods, once condemned as speculative, were reframed as fully aligned with Sunni orthodoxy. A man once declared a heretic became a pillar of hadith-based Islam. Here's someone most of you have probably never heard of, Layth ibn Sa'd. Why? Because he prioritized reason and the Quran over hadith. As a result, he was sidelined in Sunni history. Anas ibn Malik, whose Muwatta contained mostly his own reasoning and reports from companions, was later celebrated as a hadith champion. Shafi'i, who equated hadith with the Quran, became a defender of strict orthodoxy. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who prioritized hadith over the Quran, became the model of Sunni piety. Critics were rewritten as champions. What began as an inclusive, Quran-centered faith became a strict, hadith-dominated orthodoxy, where minor deviations could exclude someone from Islam entirely. This isn't unique to Islam. In Christianity, church fathers of the first centuries were not Trinitarians, but later histories present them as if they were. Similarly, Sunni scholars rewrote early Islamic history to make figures like Abu Hanifah, Malik, and others appear as unwavering champions of hadith, even when historical records say otherwise. Enemies became allies, heretics became saints, flexibility became rigid orthodoxy. And the narrative of Islam itself was rewritten, not as it was lived, but as scholars deemed necessary to secure their authority. The Islam we see today, a strict, hadith-focused, doctrinally rigid religion, is the product of centuries of scholarly consolidation, historical revisionism, and ideological enforcement. Understanding this history changes how we see the faith, the schools, and the stories we've been told about the earliest Muslims. So next time someone tells you that all early Muslims strictly followed hadith or that Abu Hanifah was always a Sunni icon, remember, history is not always what it seems. Sometimes it's written to serve power, not truth. If you found this video informative, subscribe for more weekly videos like this. Thank you for watching.